Mike Cardano with Roto Experts in the Fantasy Sports Network, here with you to talk about top Tournament Daily Fantasy plays for Week 4 as we strive to find NFL players with big upside and potential low ownership to help you separate from the field and climb your tournament leaderboard in daily fantasy. And we'll be doing these segments every week during the NFL season. And if you just can't get enough of me and are hankering for some more, well, you can hop on over to rotoexperts.com and catch my work there. You'll find me on sportsgrid.com, SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio, and of course, you'll find me 8 days a week on the Fantasy Sports Network. Without further ado, let's get right to the quarterback position. The guy we want to focus in on here is Teddy Bridgewater. Bridgewater is the cheap rookie to own in tournaments this week. His ownership percentage will likely be low as players concentrate on Blake Bortles, who put up 18 fantasy points last week and comes in with a bit more hype. However, Bortles will face the San Diego offense that grinds out the clock and executes a ball control offense that we expect to limit Bortles' opportunities. Now, the team total for the Jaguars this week is just 16 points, whereas Bridgewater's Vikings have a team total of 22 against an Atlanta defense that projects to finish in the bottom third of the NFL. Bridgewater may be a better fantasy quarterback than a real-life quarterback at the moment, but hey, that's all we care about here. And he should be able to make plays with his legs as he rushed 6 times on 25 dropbacks last week, including twice in the red zone. Now, it's also important to note that the Vikings offense as a whole was much more effective with Teddy Bridgewater at the helm. Their 7 red zone opportunities last week were more than the 6 that the team saw over their first 2 weeks combined. Now on to the running back position, a position that's been decimated by injuries and players missing because of off-the-field issues. But we've got a number of solid plays for you here that fit our objectives. Fred Jackson is too risky to use in cash games since he's in a timeshare with CJ Spiller. But for that very same reason, he could come up with a low ownership in tournaments. Now while he doesn't get the quantity of snaps that we'd like to see out of a lead back, Jackson catches passes and leads the Bills with a red zone market share of 32.26%. Jackson caught 8 passes last week and saw a huge increase in snaps, with the Bills trailing most of the game to the Chargers. And with the Bills underdogs this week, Jackson could see those snaps totals carry over. He appears to get the playing time when the Bills are trailing since he's their main passing down back, as evidenced by his 17 targets to CJ Spiller's 7. On top of Jackson being the main pass catcher threat out of the backfield and main red zone threat, the Bills will likely follow the Giants' lead from a week ago and attack a weak Texans rush defense. Now, the Bills have the 3rd highest rushing percentage as a team, and the Texans' run defense is ranked dead last in the NFL, according to Football Outsiders. Now, sometimes in tournaments, players have a tendency to focus on big playability, but touchdown upside is far more important. Carlos Hyde is not going to present much value between the 20s, but he will give you multiple touchdown upside at near minimum salary. Hyde leads the Niners with a red zone market share of 27.59%, and he has received multiple red zone opportunities in each of the team's first 3 games, totaling 8 red zone opportunities compared to Frank Gore's 5. Now, if that ratio holds, Hyde can find the end zone a number of times, which should be a high-scoring game against the Eagles. The Niners have the 3rd highest team total of the week at 28. Now last week, in regards to Travis Kelce, I talked about needing to be ahead of the curve, betting on talent and hoping to catch that breakout game. Following that same line of thinking, Titans rookie running back Bishop Sankey is an appropriate risk this week. Sankey has the athleticism and skills necessary to be an RB2 in fantasy. He just needs the opportunity. Now last week we saw flashes of the Titans offense, perhaps shifting their focus towards Sankey as he saw 10 carries, which was as many as Sean Green and 2 more than Sankey received over the first 2 weeks of the season combined. Sankey turned those 10 carries into 61 yards, while Green plodded his way to just 33 with the same number of opportunities. Hopefully the Titans coaching staff chooses to go with Sankey's upside as underdogs this week, as he could do plenty of damage as a lead back against the Colts rush defense that is in the bottom 10 of the NFL according to both Football Outsiders and Pro Football Focus. On the receiver front, after drilling down and perusing all of the data, we've come up with 2 players that we truly believe have big upside and potential low ownership this week. With Vincent Jackson really struggling to begin the season and reports surfacing about him playing through a small fracture in his wrist, well, he may end up being someone that many people avoid this week, regardless of format. Now, while the concern is understandable, it's also possible that much of this reporting is just noise. Now, it's not often that you get a player with Jackson's upside at this price point. His size and athleticism make him both an elite vertical threat and red zone threat. Now, the opportunities are there for Jackson as he ranks 16th in the NFL with 26 targets. However, no one with more targets than Jackson has less fantasy points per opportunity than Jackson's .25. Now, even with bad quarterback play and at less than 100% health, that number should rise as the season progresses. Jackson averaged .44 fantasy points per opportunity in each of the last 2 seasons, with Josh Freeman throwing him the ball. Now, the other wideout that fits our criteria this week is Kenny Stills. The Saints' passing game should have its way against a very bad Dallas defense that has the 6th worst pass coverage rating this season, according to Pro Football Focus. Now, not surprisingly, the Saints have the 2nd highest team total of the week at 28. Stills may go under-owned in tournaments since he's the 4th option in the Saints' passing attack. However, he has 7 targets over the past 2 weeks, which is more than Marquise Colston and 2nd among Saints wide receivers. Stills has caught all 7 of those targets, but for just 63 yards. Look for the yards per catch to rise moving forward, as Stills has big playability as evidenced by his 20 yards per reception last season, which was 3rd highest in the NFL. All right, tight ends, you're going to need a tight end, right? Well, one way to get an edge in tournaments is to stray away from popular opinion at a position where the choices sometimes seem obvious. Now, this week, many people will be locked into Jimmy Graham's elite matchup or Rob Gronkowski's low price tag. So, if you can grab a low price tight end who matches their production, well, you'll have a big edge given the extra salary that you have to spend on other positions. Now, for the 2nd week in a row, we're eyeing Travis Kelce as a low-price tight end. As mentioned last week, Kelce has elite athleticism based on combine metrics that put him in a category along with Rob Gronkowski. Now, the Chiefs are hopefully starting to recognize that they need Kelce's skills on the field, as his snaps have risen each week. In week 2, he played just 37% of the snaps, but that number rose to 65% last week. And of tight ends with 10 or more targets on the season, only Julius Thomas, Jimmy Graham, and Rob Gronkowski have more fantasy points per opportunity. Now, for more in-depth fantasy analysis, head on over to rotoexperts.com and sign up for the weekly fantasy football package. Our experts Drew Dinkmeyer and Mike Leone get you ready each week with strategy articles, site-specific cheat sheets, and recommendations that highlight the top value plays each week. They also send you updated injury information right to your inbox with our lineup alerts feature. Become a member of the Daily Fantasy Rundown team at rotoexperts.com by signing up for the weekly fantasy football package. For Roto Experts and the Fantasy Sports Network, I'm Mike Cardano.